Hey, this is Troy, the Planescape Guy. Thanks for tuning in again today. You can find us at I Want to Be a GM on our .com, Facebook, Discord, and YouTube. And today we have a great show. I've got Borris.
Woo! Jester Borris from I Want to Be a GM, as always.
And hiding in the shadows is Mr. Producer.
We downloaded a digital copy. He's actually on freeware, so I wouldn't expect too much out of him. But this is Through the Multiverse, Cyberpunk. So, polish your chrome, stack your eddies, and get ready to enter the dark future. This is a lot of fun, and it's a great game system with a long history. So, we are glad to have you here today for Cyberpunk. It's one of my favorite games. I like to run it. The combat is gritty. The world setting is rich. The character creation is in depth. So everything that you could ask for in an RPG system.
It is definitely nitty gritty.
Yeah.
One of the things also this game system has done over the years is spawned off games that are similar to it, or world settings that are similar to it. And we were talking about some of those before the show. And it was interesting to me just how many of them there were. If they're not cyberpunk per se, they are very cyberpunk-ish.
Well, there's a whole genre of media. So cyberpunk, of course, the title of the genre, and then we've got the game. We've got so much. So let me start here with, of course, the current edition right now is Cyberpunk RED. This is the 4th version of the role-playing game set in 2045. Anybody that's played the video game or seen Cyberpunk Edge Runners, that is set in 2077. So this starts a little bit before what we've been introduced to in the game. But if you've seen Night City, if you've been in that world at all, it is the same.
The future!
Mega corporations rule the world, as it were. Governments don't hold as much power. And if you don't have the money, then you don't really matter.
Kind of like today.
So, this is published by Talsorian Games. Cyberpunk RED was released in November of 2020. And the system name on this one, Troy, is the Interlock system.
The Interlock?
Yeah, so not a D20 system, not like Essence 20, where we've seen with Renegade Studios. So this is the Interlock system.
Okay.
One of the things that's really cool about this is their companion app for Cyberpunk RED is really good. The companion app for character creation and management. And then, of course, as we mentioned, the world of Cyberpunk extends into other media, such as Cyberpunk 2077, comics like Cyberpunk 2077 Trauma Team, you can pick up from your local comic vendor. And there's also the Netflix series I mentioned, Cyberpunk Edge Runners. So a lot of things that were going on to this. Before I get too deep into it, maybe you've never seen or heard of Cyberpunk, and that's
what is Cyberpunk?
What is Cyberpunk? Troy, you were introduced to Cyberpunk quite a while back. But, yes, first
Cyberpunk GURPS. Yes, it's a few years ago. This is 90. What did I say? It came out 3.
I don't remember because the first edition,
92.
Yeah,
92. So it came out before a few of you kids did.
Anyway, so Cyberpunk as a genre has several key elements, and you'll start to notice that these things apply to other properties as well. The big one I think that's going to be recognizable, Troy, is Blade Runner.
Yes.
And then anybody who's a fan of anime, Ghost in the Shell fits into this genre as well. Couple things here I want us to talk about sort of its origins. We've got the book Neuromancer is also credited, or sorry, not often, also, but often credited with popularizing the cyberpunk genre. Neuromancer is a seminal work that explores themes of artificial intelligence, cybernetics, and the intersection of technology and society.
Oh, Elon Musk.
It follows a washed-up computer hacker hired for a final job that pulls him into a complex and dangerous conspiracy.
Elon Musk.
Oh, we need to have a cyberpunk campaign where we launch a car into space.
I hate all of you right now.
Elon Musk.
Well, this one here is a direct inspiration. Do androids dream of electric sheep?
Electric sheep, not real sheep.
This
Robotic
novel inspired the movie Blade Runner. Is a key influence on the cyberpunk aesthetic and themes.
It is.
It explores the ethical and philosophical implications of artificial intelligence and the nature of humanity in a dystopian future.
I read about half the book that Blade Runner was made from,
Yeah,
and it went down a
I'll let you
lot of
see.
rabbit holes like that. Do robots that have a very high artificial intelligence,
Mhm.
do they dream, and what exactly is their inspiration?
Yep.
Because the one thing that makes computers different from humans, and that's what he was trying to find, was we have the ability to inspire and think and create things abstractly that do not exist currently.
Yeah.
A computer cannot. A computer can take things that currently exist, put them together, and make something new,
Mhm.
but they can't just abstractly think, I want to make this.
Yeah, even generative AI models that we have now
Mhm.
aren't necessarily creating new content. They're taking what exists and sort of modifying it or doing elements of. Newer models, though, are getting more on the edge of making something new, but they don't do it on their own. They are still a tool, and they're not necessarily a true AI, but an advanced machine learning.
You're right. Like this Chat GPT.
Right.
I don't think it's true AI. I think it's a higher form of Google.
Yeah,
Able to search vaster amounts of stuff and come up with something quicker.
and each AI model depends on how it's trained. Right?
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
it'll be different. But as we did into some of the 10 highlights of what makes a cyberpunk,
Mm-hmm.
high tech and low life.
Full life.
Well,
Scum.
the juxtaposition of advanced technology with societal decay.
Yes.
And so in the cyberpunk game in particular, a lot of your stories are street level crime. You know, you're oppressed. There's gang wars. There's drug violence. The things that you would see in any sort of overly urbanized, economically depressed area, you're going to find
Mhm.
there as your everyday. But you see that as your everyday while you're wearing a cyber arm, you're carrying an expensive gun, your clothes are an expression of yourself, and maybe you spend all your money on it. That's why you're broke all the time. Your apartment is terrible and you're eating protein paste, but you look fly while you do it. It's the aesthetic of it, right? You live up, you try to make yourself more than you are, because everybody knows at the end of the day
Yeah.
that they go back to their crappy little apartment on the slums. It's kind of like what we saw with the rise of Facebook, right? Everybody's life was perfect, and then suddenly this couple gets divorced. You're like, well, hold on, I thought everything was.
Right.
And that's the thing. The facade in Cyberpunk that you build for yourself is just as important as what your reality is, what your survival is.
Mhm.
And that's what we see. The high tech and low life is a foundational theme in a lot of the Cyberpunk genre.
There's a lot of, we're going through this list.
Yeah.
Besides Blade Runner, it just drips with Blade Runner.
It's the quintessential. They
Yeah.
also, by the way, have a Blade Runner RPG. The starter kit for it was super impressive. I'd highly recommend picking that up, because the whole deal is you're trying to find replicants. So they give you a case file. It's really cool. I didn't grab it off the shelf today. I meant to, and that's my bad there. One of the other key features for Cyberpunk as a genre is corporate control. Mega corporations have more power than governments.
Mm-hmm.
So, we saw this in like RoboCop. I think it was right on the nose when they called that company Omni Consumer Products.
Yeah.
They literally sold everything.
Yep.
From the toothpaste you brush your teeth with to the tanks that they were using in foreign wars.
Right.
And so when they literally owned the police force. And so when Murphy is violently murdered, they already owned his corpse as a legal matter.
Yeah.
And so there was nothing from them to go ahead and cyborg him and turn him into RoboCop.
Yep.
But again, we see that we go back to that high tech, low life. Now you've got a cyborg policing the streets of economically depressed Detroit. But mega corporations, cybernetics and augmentation, the integration of technology with the human body, and not like something that you wear like a smartwatch, but like is your body or is integrated, something that's installed into your body. That's one of the big things.
Some of the cybernetics, you get into the intelligence, where you're going to augment your brain so that you can think faster, hold more information, all this kind of thing.
One of the ones we talked about earlier that was really cool was Johnny Mnemonic.
Johnny Mnemonic was very cool.
So
he had a big computer chip in his brain and he'd smuggle information.
Right. Well, he was a digital courier.
Yep.
But the reason why he was so important is that data transmission could be intercepted. But if he takes his hard drive and plugs it into his skull and then walks down the street, it's a lot harder to get that information.
But they tried.
Oh, they tried.
What
So,
was that? 19.
Yeah,
early Keanu Reeves.
Early Keanu Reeves,
Hard
yeah.
drive in his head was what? 3 gig, 4 gig?
It wasn't much.
No, it was,
And
it was
he
something stupid. I forget. It was.
back in the day, and when you consider like they're booting up old Apple IIs and Windows 3.1 machines, and he's like, yeah, he has 500. You're like, oh wow, that's a lot.
It was kind of interesting, So you got that kind of stuff from Johnny Mnemonic, but in Star Wars, they had those kids on the Mandalorian that were augmenting their arms and their legs and their sight.
Yeah, they called them the mods, and
Right.
so they would fit this theme really well. I was kind of excited to see it, particularly in Tatooine. Tatooine has never been an economic hub of much.
I
but
could
it's-
see myself if I got my leg blowed off, I would get an artificial leg.
Yeah.
Now, would I go and have them cut off my legs so I could be the $6 million man and run fast? Probably not.
no,
But I guarantee you, there's a bad guy somewhere that says, you know what? I get rid of my left hand and I put a gun in there.
there's a lot of things that have, and the Star Wars in particular, that were interesting. So that particular group was called the mods. They were doing it as part of fashion. They were, like I mentioned, from the street level trying to live up.
Yep.
I mean, they had polished, clean little scooter bikes.
Yes.
Whatever they were doing, all their fashion was very punk.
Yeah.
But again, they were on Tatooine, so they're an economically depressed. It's gone from hut control and spice gangs to the Empire, with also the spice gangs, and then the Empire left, and it got worse.
Just
So
more
they-
bad guys.
So they've never had that great a time of it, and so to be able to do even the small stuff like that was unique and different, was them trying to live up out of their station, and from a medical perspective, there are still a lot of medical cybernetics. So again, with Star Wars, Luke had a cybernetic prosthetic that was a medical prosthetic. Vader, when he was cybernetized, he had medical cybernetics. But when we saw Darth Maul, he had some wild stuff. Well, the first time we see
Yes.
him, he's like got 4 legs and doing all sorts of things.
Yeah.
So-
He kind of lost his legs in a sword fight, fell down a big hole, and somebody found him and put him back together like a science project.
Yeah,
But later, I forget which of the series it was when he showed up. He had artificial legs. It was
Yeah.
regular legs. So yeah, if you don't kill that guy right, yeah, he's gonna come back.
Well,
Yeah.
so even General Grievous, right? He's like a full
Well,
replacement.
he'd be
More
a-
like RoboCop.
well, right. So he's a full body replacement.
Yeah,
And,
his brain is inside the skull. And he's
right. And what was in
got heart
his
and lungs.
yeah, some of the vital organs to keep that brain working, essentially.
Yeah, very few.
Yeah. And so characters in cyberpunk settings will often replace limbs with cybernetic prosthetics. The idea of these is not as a medical, like we talked about. You know, you have an
Right.
injury or an accident or deformity, and you get something that allows you to be more able.
It would be
These,
bigger, better, tougher, stronger, can
Right.
see further.
yeah,
all
and and so these are like, now I have beyond visible light spectrum visibility. I've got a cyber arm that lets me lift a tank. You know,
Mantis rates.
hidden blades and all this sort of stuff. So it's augmentation of your natural abilities, not the restoration of your natural shape, that comes into cyberpunk. Artificial intelligence. So the rise of AI, and we're talking about true AI, challenges the nature of consciousness and the boundaries between human and machine intelligence. AI in cyberpunk stories often expose existential threats or raises moral questions. When we see that a lot too, as you become more machine, how do you hold on to your humanity?
Yes.
And that's one of the things, as you know, I like Cyberpunk, I like Vampire the Masquerade. They deal with a lot of those same questions from different perspectives.
Yes.
You know, as a vampire, as a creature now designed to kill, as a cursed immortal, how do you maintain your humanity and not
Well,
become just a monster? How in here do you not become a robot and maintain and be able to work within a civil society?
That's a challenge that a DM can and should put into every night's game, because whether you're a human or elf or a dwarf, you still have that humanity, if you will.
Right, the moral
the
centers.
compassion, all that, for your fellow man. Help this guy out. Help this street urchin kid who's in a mud puddle in the middle of the street. Your morality comes from a number of things. So in Cyberpunk, because you start as a human, so you have that morality from being a human.
Yeah.
So that's your center, that's your lock, that's your anchor of your personality.
Mm-hmm.
And I can definitely see that as you gain in gadgets, some of that can be lost here and there. But you could also wind up like RoboCop. He knows he's losing some of it, but he checks himself.
Well, that was the thing, particularly as he was in the fight longer and longer. If you follow him through the comics, after OCP manages to finally own the city of Detroit, he's the only cop in the city.
Yes.
It falls into a total lawless war zone. And so for Murphy to go through that grind and maintain his humanity gets tougher and tougher.
Mm-hmm.
But his initial story is where he's killed in the line of duty. He comes back as a total robot, and despite what they've done to him, regains his human presence. Was the big triumph there, particularly in the first RoboCop. And then as you see him go through, and he, I love the end of the second film. He's done fighting Kane, and he's there with his partner, and his helmet's all jacked up and stuff. And he's like, after all, we're only human. And he's like taking his visor off because he's got a big bolt that holds it on. I'm like,
yeah.
I have to say my favorite RoboCop moment is when OCP was trying to make him more people friendly. Right?
Yeah, they changed him to.
Like he had all these different protocols and stuff going through, and he walks over to the high voltage system and grabs it, fries himself, and does a hard reboot.
Yeah, he's got to reboot to factory settings. Yeah, because to that point, he's
Microsoft.
It's a good thing he had a copy of Ubuntu on him.
Yeah, boot back to Linux, get rid of that window. But
it did look like Linux.
Yeah. So identity in the self is we're going to the blurring of identity in a world where people can alter their appearances, memories, and even personalities through technology. This theme explores what makes someone who they are and how much of that identity is tied to the physical body. So when you have digital avatars now, we're getting to the point where we can generate an almost true human image. And there's a lot of faceless or YouTube channels, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you don't even have to present your presence. You just have to have an idea. And so when you get into the themes of identity and self, who is this person? What makes you a person? Like how do you become this entity? And what all defines that? It can be ambiguous and it can be fluid. It's really kind of interesting in the genre, and you see that in a lot of different ways.
So it's interesting to me as you're reading. You start off with your guy and you start making these modifications based on what kind of job, your group, or whatever your missions are. There's no definition of good and evil in here anywhere that I've seen.
Well, you'll get a little bit into that, but most of that has fallen away because of the fight for survival.
Right. So we talked about morals.
Yeah.
A little bit. So where typically does the game draw that moral line?
It's basically.
Oh, you didn't study.
I did study. I have to go and pull it out of one of these other 30 pages of notes, Troy.
But we were talking about the morality there a minute ago, and this guy sits in the back of my brain. He wouldn't shut up about it. So, because I remember playing Cyberpunk from GURPS.
Yeah.
And there's also stuff in Star Trek. You can jack your brain right into a computer.
Mm-hmm.
So you lose more of your humanity, the things that make you a person, and you start taking on more traits as a computer. And I remember in the GURPS rules, every time you did that, there's dice you had to roll because you're going to lose a percentage of yourself.
Yeah, and in this system, you have a stat for empathy.
Okay.
And then your tens place for empathy sets your humanity on a scale of 1 to 100, or 0 to 100. So each device you install subtracts from your humanity.
Okay.
The lower you get, the more likely you are to develop problems, schizophrenia, other psychoses. If you reach 0, you suffer a mental break and can become psychotic or suicidal or any number of things. And that's the famous cyberpsychosis. Somebody who's so jacked up with all of their stuff, their body can't handle it. They lose touch with reality. They disassociate. Any number of things can happen. They've tracked that through your empathy stat.
So when we get to that point, you're an NPC, and the next group gets to kill you.
Yeah, or your party has to put you down because you're such a threat.
Yeah.
We see that in the Cyberpunk Edge Runners anime, the main character ends up so modified that he loses touch with things and ends up to fight the last battle, jacks into some experimental military tech and ends up losing himself in the fight. Now, there are some NPCs in the setting that are pretty interesting. We'll talk a little bit more in depth, but the guy, Adam Smasher.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I gave you the list there. He is almost a full body cybernetic replacement at this point and is still not lost himself. So, yeah.
That just means he was probably crazy to begin with.
Could be. So, yes, a feared and powerful solo who has undergone extensive cybernetic enhancements. And what's kind of was as you find him across the timeline of Cyberpunk, he's more and more enhanced, or he'll come out with something new, and you're like, what the heck is this? But we'll run through the rest of these pretty quick here. Urbanization and dystopia. Cyberpunk worlds are typically set in sprawling, overpopulated cities with decaying infrastructure, rampant crime, and a stark divide between the rich and poor. Rebellion and resistance. In response to corporate oppression and societal decay, cyberpunk stories often feature anti-heroes. I love that one of the classes is actually Rocker Boy. So we'll get into a little bit more detail on that. But yeah, sing the songs there. Virtual reality and cyberspace. Dehumanization and loss of privacy. In a world where surveillance is ubiquitous and corporations or governments have the ability to monitor and control every aspect of life, personal freedom and privacy are eroded. This often leads to a sense of dehumanization, where individuals are treated as mere data points or commodities.
Yeah, I remember that in the game. You could scan people and bring up their whole bio and see if they're wanted for anything or something like that.
Yeah, depending on the mods. But when you consider how much data is collected on us just from our phone, and now telematics in cars, anything we do on a computer, we generate tons and tons of data that gets sold, traded, and scoured by...
And you put that into your brain, and there's even more data that does the same thing.
Yeah. And then existentialism and philosophical inquiry. Cyberpunk often explores deep philosophical questions about existence, consciousness, and the meaning of life in a world where technology can replicate or surpass human abilities.
All I know is Adam Jensen didn't ask for this.
Yeah, Adam Jensen never did ask for this, but his jacket was cool, and I want that. So,
I mean, really, he just needs to, like, get up a bit, because he can punch through walls now. So.
Yeah. So when it comes to cyberpunk as a genre, we've got some of the popular media. Neuromancer, the 1984 novel that I mentioned. Akira, 1988. The Matrix. The film blends cyberpunk themes with philosophical questions about reality, featuring a dystopian future where humans are trapped in a simulated reality. Not the sort of, cyberpunk that we'd normally expect, but it's got a lot of those same story elements that you would find in a lot of the other cyberpunk media. Snow Crash, another seminal cyberpunk novel. Snow Crash explores the future dominated by corporate-controlled city-states, virtual reality, and the blending of technology with ancient mythology. Altered Carbon. If you guys haven't seen Altered Carbon, the Netflix show was awesome. Deus Ex, the video game. We keep talking about that. Video game series combines cyberpunk's aesthetics with role-playing elements, allowing players to navigate a world filled with conspiracies, cybernetics, and corporate espionage.
It's also one of the only video games where you could kill yourself in the intro area.
Yeah, that was pretty fun, actually. You just
climb on top of the helicopter.
Yeah, Ghost in the Shell. Black Mirror is not exclusively cyberpunk. Many episodes of the anthology series explore cyberpunk themes like the dark side of technology, dystopian futures, and the impact of digital culture on society. If you haven't checked it out, a lot of the Black Mirror episodes could be great places of inspiration for when you start to write your cyberpunk characters and stories. Johnny Mnemonic, based on the short story by William Gibson. The film is set in the future where data couriers transport sensitive information directly in their brains.
I think it's funny that Keanu Reeves played Johnny Mnemonic, who was dying from data leak, and in the Cyberpunk video game, Keanu Reeves is killing the main character by its data leak.
Actually, it is. He has come full circle. I wonder if they did that on purpose. That kind of seems like something they did on purpose. Total Recall, Elysium, and Judge Dredd. I love Judge Dredd, yeah. So set in a dystopian future where judges serve as the ultimate law enforcers, the series explores themes of authoritarianism, justice, and the role of government in society. And it is definitely high-tech, low-life.
Very low life, but they had like high-rise apartment buildings that were owned by criminal syndicates.
Yeah, and particularly the second one with Carl Urban. Carl Urban plays Judge Dredd. Doesn't take his helmet off the whole film. That is my favorite Judge Dredd. They've got the flying motorcycles, the crazy pistol that can do 800 million things. But that's all high technology stuff, and they get locked in this apartment complex owned by a crime boss, and they spend the next 2 hours fighting their way out of it.
It's a serious fight.
It's pretty good. Judge Dredd is one of those cool ones. So,
Yeah.
But that's a little bit about Cyberpunk as a genre. So now maybe you're primed to get into Cyberpunk the game. So here we go.
Roll initiative.
Roll initiative. Talsorian Games is a notable TTRPG publisher known for it's an influential game. So they've got they're doing Witcher the game right now, Troy. Yep.
Yeah.
Which is their other one. Then we got Cyberpunk.
We
Or
gotta,
maybe
get,
I'm
we gotta
confusing.
get that one. We gotta get that one.
Is there a potions mixability chart in Witcher?
I don't know.
Because he drinks so many potions.
He does. Oh, I'm hoping that's right, not because I was also prepping for the Call of Cthulhu episode. So anyway, we got a lot of this stuff. Cyberpunk is actually kind of interesting. One of the things that was crazy about the 80s was the way that they saw the future, Troy.
Yes, they did.
Name me a couple of movies where the future has already passed.
Back to the Future.
Back to the Future.
Those those movies, the future has already passed.
Yeah, 2012.
Yeah. Blade Runner, part of that.
hmm
Oh hell. What's really weird is that there's a lot of Space 1999.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One Space Odyssey.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2001 Space Odyssey and the sequel 2011 Space Odyssey. Yeah. Sorry, I can't do that, Dave.
See, I mean, those could technically still be in the future because of relativistic traveling speeds. It stretches
So
time.
you always got to ask, what calendar are you using? You know,
Yeah.
Sometimes.
True.
because if you're using the Mayan calendar that's broken, and according to that, we're all dead anyway.
Yeah.
So,
Well, then, we could also still get to the point where we're doing Planet of the Apes.
Planet of the Apes, that's another one.
Yep.
Because they launched in 1970 something
Yeah.
and went around the Earth and then crash landed and found out that it was Earth. It was another
Yeah,
planet.
and they were only supposed to be for like 100 years or something. I don't remember. I think in the second or third film they allude to how much time had
Yeah, the
passed.
second and third film, they started getting crazy with it. But the first one with Charlton Heston is just the best.
Yeah,
Get your hands off me, you damn dirty ape!
and the new ones are getting pretty good too.
The special effects is really good.
So the Far Cry series of video games, really cool shooters. They had one from Far Cry 3. That's a couple games ago now. Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon.
I think it came out in like 05, 2010.
I don't know,
somewhere in that
but
area.
so with that pop futurism, the neon futurism, cyber stuff going on, their opening is the year is 2008. It is the future, and then cue the music, and you're like, yes.
Laser raptors and T-Rexes with rocket launchers on their back.
But yeah, and then of course you're in the white suit out of Miami Vice and whatever. But, so 2008, and we got
So there's an old TV series back in the early 80s. Yes, I'm old. It's called The Ark. And it's this big futuristic truck after post-apocalyptic, everything gone to hell kind of thing. And they're driving around they're a bunch of scientists trying to fix people and help them with this and how to get water, how to make fire, this kind of stuff. But it was futuristic. If I remember right, it was supposed to have happened in like 2000 something.
right. Well, Mad Max is another
Mad
one.
Max. Oh my God, how could I not remember Max?
Yeah, the world went to hell in the early 90s, apparently.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it did. But,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah, Mad Max.
So Cyberpunk first edition, released in 86, I believe it was, or 85. Cyberpunk 2013 is what we refer to it now because that's when it starts, is 2013.
Okay.
So second version is continued through Cyberpunk 2020.
Almost here.
Almost here. They had a version 3 that made some lore updates and some different rules changes that, as far as the Cyberpunk community goes, it was had like a rocky reception because of the changes that were made. But that was in the 2030s.
Okay.
And then the current edition takes us into 2045.
Okay.
And then that still has enough space up to 2077, which was the video games that we talked about, and the anime series.
Okay.
So that's where we are with the Cyberpunk games release. Cyberpunk series and has done there
There's
and
so
done that.
much
So
old-
we're good there. Boom.
So much old sci-fi has come to pass.
It's really kind of interesting.
Thundercats in Cyberpunk? Because they started in space and they crashed on an uninhabited planet.
They're an interesting sci-fi fantasy mix, kind of like He-Man,
Yeah.
because they had hover vehicles and they fought with swords.
Yeah.
What was the monster that shot?
Magic too.
What was the monster that shot rocks out of his face? Was that He-Man?
I don't remember.
Thundercats? No.
They all had something. Those shows
They had
existed
one, they
for
called
the
him a
toy line.
Shmoo. He was like just a blob. Shmoo.
Oh, okay. This is way before. That's a Hanna-Barbera one.
Yeah.
It was something the Barbarian. I don't
The
remember.
only thing I really remember vividly from the old Hanna-Barbera stuff is the Wacky Races.
Yeah, Wacky
Oh my
Racers.
God, the
I
Wacky
love
Races.
Wacky Races.
Wacky Racers is a dystopian future.
Yeah.
The Wacky Races, the cartoon series, was made after a movie called Those Men and Their Wonderful Machines,
Mhm.
made in 1940 something, and it is fucking hilarious. I'm sorry, it's really hilarious.
So that's the Edge.
Oh, so we
Kid.
do have we got one lost soul out there that's listening to us. If you have any questions, comments, or gripes or whatever,
Yep.
you can raise your hand, and that way I'll know not to call on you.
Indeed. So,
We'll see who to make fun of.
Exactly.
one of the things that's nice as we get into the game system itself is the minimum materials needed to play.
Oh yes, yes.
Just the core rulebook.
Wow.
That's it. So the core rulebook is very cool in that it contains everything that you need to get primed up on the world setting, everything that you need to create your character, all of your equipment, including your cybernetics, allies, antagonists, Night City, all in the one book. So if you've not seen it before, you'll be able to pick this up, read it, and jump right into it. There's
Dude, the Comic Cons at Cyberpunk would be amazing. Could you imagine the Darth Vader cosplay?
they probably look exactly the same
Yeah, they
because
probably-
it hasn't changed since the 70s.
Well, no, because it would be
So
like
the
actual working
Cyberpunk
mechanical
core
parts.
rule
I guess
book,
it's true.
the Cyberpunk core rulebook can be yours for a mere expense of $60 at your local game store.
And they do have Roll20. So if you use VTTs, you can
Oh,
pick
yeah,
up
yeah,
the
yeah.
set for your VTT of choice. Particularly though, with Roll20's integration, you can launch that activity straight from Discord. It's a great way to be able to pick that up. They have the Jumpstart kit and a couple no-cost PDF adventures to get you started.
And when you're at your local game store checking out Cyberpunk, don't forget to ask them if there's a group that plays regularly in the store or if they have loaner material that you could borrow while playing there in the store.
So when we get into this, where the location is primarily set in Night City, a sprawling urban environment on the west coast of the U.S., dominated by megacorps and rife with danger. So it's kind of fun for it to be on the west coast. We have Japanese megacorporation Arasaka, and then we have U.S. Megacorporation I think it's called Megatech or something.
Well, there's
Microsoft?
No, not
there's
Microsoft.
Security guys.
Right.
Yeah.
I've just had it in my.
Tech.
I don't know. Somebody will have to tell me because I've totally ruined it at this point. And I didn't write it down.
Bad guys.
But what's fun about it is,
Corporal Gonks.
well, they in the warehouse section they both have warehouses, right?
Oh yeah.
So every once in a while, this mega corporation will be moving weapons. This other mega corporation wants you to knock off their convoy. It's all fun, and it happens right there in the city.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that's great when you're trying to get a hot dog from your local hot dog vendor.
Of course.
And I don't know if you haven't, like, there's no hot dog fields around there, so it's probably just
So,
rat.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Rat if you're lucky.
indeed. So 2045 during the time of the Red, which is a period following the Fourth Corporate War. This is kind of give
Fourth
you,
corporate war.
yeah. So
How'd Taco Bell fare?
I don't know if we've had the.
Oh, I still get flashbacks of Pizza Hut, dude. That,
Well,
No.
that
that was
my
funny.
God.
No.
Demolition
Okay.
Man
No, I know.
happened
Yeah.
in California.
No, they did. So, gotta break in here. Mr. Producer and I were watching Demolition Man,
Love it.
and we were going through, and apparently there was a U.S. version and an international version, and
Oh,
what's
no.
on streaming right now is international.
Okay.
The producers of the film didn't think Taco Bell was recognizable enough at the time outside of the U.S., So
Right.
they went back and they dubbed and edited the film for Pizza Hut.
Yeah.
Mr. Producer and I are going through, and
Pizza
they
Hut.
well, and so they've.
It's the scene where they're driving to the place and they're talking about it. So they're
Right.
talking about the fast food wars.
Yeah.
The guy's like, so Pizza Hut won. I was like, what did he say?
Yeah, and then you could because I've done enough video, and you kind of see where the Sandra Bullock's lips didn't quite match. And he's like, yeah, every restaurant's Pizza Hut. And you're like, hold on.
And they had all those logos.
But no. Well, they did.
Yeah.
They edited those and on the film, and they rotoscoped it and stuff. But Mr. Producer and I looked at each other. We started losing our minds because we thought we just got Mandela effect
in real time.
in real time, and we had to look it up and figure out what the heck was going on. We're like, no, it was Taco Bell.
100%. It's a reflection in the window.
Yeah. See, this is why I don't update my brain firmware.
Yeah, I mean,
That way I can't be hacked.
that's what happened in Deus Ex. You update your firmware, and now you can't beat the bad guys.
Yeah, it was actually a thing. But so yeah, the fourth corporate war, it left the world in a state of recovery and chaos. Cybernetics, corporate intrigue, urban decay, street level survival, and personal freedom against overwhelming odds. These are your thematic elements. And then magic versus technology. We always talk about this when we break out a new system. The setting is entirely tech driven. As you might imagine, with no magic elements, technology, especially cybernetics, is both a blessing and a curse, offering power at the cost of your humanity.
Right.
Well, not to mention, there's always a sliding scale of magic versus tech. And since there is no magic, the scale has slid all the way over to tech.
Yeah.
Right. But
And
there's
that-
always still maybe a small sliver in a back room somewhere in a building that's you can't get into. And the magic versus tech doesn't necessarily mean Merlin the Wizard versus, IBM supercomputer.
I'd buy tickets to that on pay-per-view.
Oh, yeah. Herman versus Dave. I'd watch that.
But the idea being, yes, you're going to have magic, you're going to have technology, and there is a balancing act there.
Mhm.
But it's very, very, very hard to make it go all the way to zero on one side, because there's always going to be somebody that has a story they heard, a book that they read.
Well, it doesn't mean that like mysticism, faith, and religion don't have their
Yes.
place here in
Yes.
the cyberpunk setting.
And that's where you're
But
going
no
to
one's
get down.
out there casting spells like we would see in a Dungeons and Dragons.
No.
The only thing that I would say has some sort of like mysticism about it is the old AI that's still in the net.
Well, that's
People
it.
talk about that as like a boogeyman.
Right, and so then you get like these urban myths, and it's still true because as the world shattered, your network now exists within the city alone, and
Right.
there's no broader internet, or access to the broader internet is dangerous because of the things that lurk there.
Mhm.
And so even the most skilled net runners try to avoid going over there because of the malicious software and things that can mess you up.
Yeah,
But it's nobody's casting magic. We don't have magic wands. There's no Merlins, but technology is
Fireball.
yeah. So
No, actually, with all that tech, lightning bolt.
yeah. Now one of the things that we saw that was kind of cool, it was pure sci-fi. Babylon 5.
Oh yeah.
They had a guy show up later in the series, was a techno wizard,
Yes.
and so
And he
he
had a
used
whole crew.
technology to mimic effects that might seem like magic.
Yeah.
But you remember the quote, Troy?
No.
Any sufficiently advanced technology is near enough to be the same as magic.
To another race,
Yeah,
to another people.
right.
I love how Mulari upset them by trying to get a picture of him shaking hands, so it looked like they were endorsing him for something he
Oh,
wanted.
right.
And so he set about making a demon virus.
Yep.
And it started going through all his records and stuff, and he couldn't do it. All the consoles were locked out, and it ran 24/7. And it was screaming like a banshee in his apartment,
Yeah, and
just screaming,
any
and it was
speaker could get
deleting-
yeah.
deleting his files one line at a time.
Oh no.
All he could do was watch it and drink.
Unplug it.
No, he couldn't.
No,
It had complete control, and it was it was the system.
Yeah, but there you have to look. Was that just a really cleverly and intensely made, with a lot of background and knowledge on how to make a virus,
Mhm.
and then you put all this audio and visual stuff on it to just intimidate your person on their screen,
Mhm.
or like they tend to say was they actually called this demon into service. Like they went and summoned it. They drew a star on the floor and summoned this demon.
Yeah, they put
into
him in a
service.
USB drive and then
They
plugged
put
him
him in a USB drive.
Yeah.
So walk him down the hall, sticking in
That's
the computer.
not, see what you're talking about there, Tori, is Shadowrun.
Yes. Yeah.
So Shadowrun is more of a cyberpunk with a mix of magic and technology. Basically, if you took D&D and you moved it to modern times, and so now you've got a tenement building where there's zombies in the basement that won't pay rent.
I do want to
You
do
know.
a D&D campaign like that, where it's basically like a supernatural world, because that's supposed to be our world in modern day. But
Yeah.
they're actually plane traveling, because they do go to purgatory. They go to hell a couple of times. They go to
Yeah,
heaven, right?
the-
They're plane traveling.
Yeah, all those are features of the Shadowrun setting. And it's quite a bit interesting if you like to have that balance between magic and technology. So technology is not as far up as Cyberpunk, because your magic has to fill some of that space. If you want a cool Shadowrun type story, though, the film Bright is right
Oh,
there.
yeah.
There we go. Got 'em.
Absolutely.
So if you haven't seen that film, definitely worth the watch.
Yes.
Very, very good. When you try to figure out how do you contain powerful magic in a modern world.
Oh, that did such a fabulous job. It was like Harry Potter, but over here.
Yeah.
Yeah, like what happens if, the Wizarding school is no longer at the Wizarding school, but it's actually the community college. down
I
the street.
really love the lore that they put around the magic wand.
Well, aside from that,
You know.
but human cop with an orc cop
Oh, yeah.
policing the orc suburbs and stuff.
Yeah.
And you can tell in the history of that setting in particular, it's like Lord of the Rings after they've done all their fighting for the thousands and thousands of years, and they've advanced to where we would recognize it as a modern world, and how those have still divided people, the histories and how they laid out in different places. Very cool, but more along the lines of Shadowrun.
So we're not talking about Shadowrun
No.
today. We're talking about
Cyberpunk.
Cyberpunk.
RoboCop.
Get with it, Troy. So we're gonna Cyberpunk is pretty cool. It's not a D20 system.
No.
It is a D10 system. So each player will need 2 D10s and 4 D6s.
2 D10s, 4 D6s.
And
Now I have to notice that the set that you have all matches and they're kind of cool looking.
I got the Cyberpunk dice set
You're gonna play Cyberpunk? Why would you get the Cyberpunk dice set?
because they're cool, Chum. So it's really straightforward, though. I love how basic this is. So you go ability score, like dexterity, plus skill, such as ranged weapon, plus your die roll.
Okay.
And then that's how you determine your 2 hit or 2 do a thing. And then on the other side of it, I can have my reaction, my armor value, and then my die roll to see if your attack is effective or not.
So if my attack number total is higher than your defense number total,
Then I got the hit.
then you get hit. All right.
And then same thing in reverse. So you can have an active defense, or you can have just a target number. There's a lot of flexibility in the way that the combat's done. It's kind of cool, but because there's not a lot of complexity in the dice, there's not much learning curve when it comes to sitting down at the table and being able to actually participate. One of the things that's kind of nice is if you pick up the Cyberpunk data pack, you've got character sheets, and you'll
I
get
like
a
how
map
it came on that
set.
notepad. It came on that notepad like it's first edition.
Yeah.
You're gonna need a lot of them.
Now, Mr. Producer can tell you when we played there with the gentleman who's on Discord with us.
This guy who
Yep, the little Ewok guy over there. Combat comes on fast and it comes on furious.
Oh yeah. I don't think the people at the table were ready for the level of violence that Cyberpunk world has.
Yeah, because again, the themes of survival are really prevalent, particularly when two corporate goons with smart guns and cyberware are at your doorstep, and you're trying to keep them out of your apartment building. Because they just want to buy, they're gonna doze your apartment, and then that's all there is to it. But you're living there like right now.
that's kind of rude.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, do you know who says no even louder than I do? My shotgun.
He's not wrong.
No,
and that's
it's a good
typical
line.
of what happens in Cyberpunk. So, gritty, deadly, fast-paced combat. is a feature.
Again, and broad daylight in the street.
Yep. So you'll rely on a mix of tactical decisions and dice rolls. Cover plays a feature in combat. Obviously, you don't want to get shot, so grab some cover. Initiative and critical injuries play key roles in survival. And critical injuries can end up causing loss of limbs or internal organ damage and things like that, which may require medical treatment or prosthetic.
More parts.
More parts.
Can I put a turbocharger on my heart?
Yeah, I mean, so it goes, and then it blows up. And you do this the whole time.
Nerd.
Yeah.
Go for a run.
Uh, So Troy, you got the character sheet there. You can kind of take a look at it.
I do.
Well, we've got 9 primary stats for characters in the Cyberpunk game setting: intelligence, reflexes, dexterity, tech. I love this one. Cool. You have a literal stat for cool.
Yeah.
And it's not your Fonzie meter. It's how your how level-headed you are under pressure. Willpower. Then you have luck, movement, and body. Skills list is extensive, covering things from like combat, hacking, social interaction, tech use, driving, any of the sort of regular skills list we'd see in a lot of RPGs.
So I noticed on this luck skill box.
Yeah.
There's another box inside that box. It says out of luck.
Yeah.
So I guess when you're out of it, you got something to check or circle. Out of luck.
Yeah, and having a high luck can mean good or bad things. Kind of like what we talked about with the Fallout game system. It can modify scenarios in different ways. It's kind of interesting.
That's one of my favorite ways to play Fallout 2 is with a maxed out luck stat and the black cat.
Oh yeah. So powers and traits. The Cyberpunk system, probably its key feature, one of the things that they handle character creation differently than any other system, is their life path system. Defines a character's background, motivations, and special traits. There's no supernatural powers, but cybernetics provides significant enhancements. What's cool about the life path system is it builds breadth and depth for your character and gives your character a connection to the setting. So that way your character has motivations and goals, not just what were you doing before you sat down at the table, but what are you actively trying to get to? Are you trying to break into a corporate job? Are you just trying to pay rent?
These are the life path questions on the character sheet. Your cultural origins, your personality, your clothing style, your hairstyle, affection.
So in the life path, you'll actually go and define relationships that you had in the past.
What do you value most?
Mm-hmm.
What are your feelings about people? I hate people. Your most valued person,
They're
most
delicious.
valued possession.
Mm-hmm.
Family background, childhood environment, family crisis, and life goals. So it really has, I mean, they don't have very much space here, but each of those can be turned into a small sheet of paper.
They could be. The way that it's defined here, at each stage of your life path, you'll have a table that you can roll on for 1d10, or you could also just simply select and custom tailor your character's life path. This gives a lot more information about your character, who they are, what's important to them, and where they're going, so that your game master can take that information and make the story relevant to why your character is involved.
And then mess with you later.
All the time. But it's something that we've always tried to do in all of our games since back in the 2nd edition and before.
Oh, yeah.
Why is this relevant? What in your character's background is going to pop up? How can I hook this character and bring the player deeper into the game?
Why did you leave home as a snot-nosed teenager?
Yep.
You and Dad had an argument and you left. I'll show him.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to go out to the world and bring back a fortune. Your best girl didn't want to see you again until you could put a diamond ring on her finger.
Mm-hmm.
Corpo guns bulldoze my pad.
Yeah.
The orcs show up in the middle of the night and burn the village down, and they carried you in a sack off.
Yep.
Put you in a sack, carried you off.
What's nice is the life path system prevents you from needing to write 19 pages of backstory for your guy to die in the first gunfight on the street, because it's probably going to happen.
But we still know those who will do it, don't we?
So
the longer your character's background is the more likely you are to die at first level.
yeah.
So
That's a combat primer.
Story is simply My name's Jeff.
You're fine.
It's level 20 now.
Let's see. Character generation is a mix of random generation and point allocation. So you'll have a little bit of randomness. Like I said, you can randomly generate your life path events, or you can select them, and then point allocation for your stats and skills. Characters are shaped by their backgrounds and choices with an emphasis on personalization.
I
Because
like it.
everybody's taking a different path through life, even if they end up at the same result or in the sort of the same job.
Yeah. I like the character customizations.
Yeah, I'll break this out now. And it is, I made notes. Page 43, if you guys have the book and want to follow along.
Yes,
so check-
open your book to page 43 and follow along at home.
Yeah. And I love some of the art that's in here. I don't know if you can really get a shot on that, Mr. Producer.
Yep, there you go.
So full color inside and out. This is a great book with easy to read charts. Everything's
I really
laid out
love
for
how
you.
the character sheet and some of the charts and stuff are laid out in here. They're really nice.
I'll touch on it here again in a little bit, but they've got an excellent section at the start of the book. There's a several-page short story for Johnny Silverhand back in 2013 when he does his raid against Arasaka. That kind of helps you, if you haven't seen it before, get primed for the world setting.
Mm-hmm.
It's also one of the big stories among the edge runners. He was one of the more successful mercenaries to fight against the corporations. But anyway, here on the life path, you can start with your cultural general region, right? You can roll, but say, for example, you had an Eastern European cultural, your languages that you might know would be English, Finnish, Polish, Romanian, Russian, or Ukrainian. So, clothing styles, so urban flash, and you get hairstyles and some different things. So, lots of different charts, as I mentioned, that give you guidance on, what is that and how does it define your character or what are your preferences.
Right.
So we got Tales from the Street, and we go through here.
Which street?
The ones where you shoot all the people. So there's your background, right? So if you've got a gangbanger family, a savage, violent home, and in a place could be a gang could take over, you were usually hungry, cold, and scared. Versus somebody who was the children of corporate managers, well-to-do with large homes, safe neighborhoods, nice cars.
Yeah, I want that.
Ideally, but do all sorts of stuff. And then they have different things based on your character class too. So how did you get into that job role? What's your outlook on different things?
Right.
A lot of information when it comes to building the background of your character to help differentiate and personalize your character. So there we go.
Seems like a really good role-playing tool.
It is, and it'd be neat to see things like the life path come in there. We see a little bit in D&D 5th edition with the backgrounds, and you get your bonds and flaws and things of that nature.
Okay, now see your icon is still logged on. If you're still with us, you give us a some kind of input. Questions, comments, gripes, complaints.
I don't want to hear about that thing growing on your toe.
You didn't take care of that thing yet?
Yes, so.
Damn kids.
Well, you still got your sword, right? We'll just take the toe.
Yeah, I'll take my axe.
We'll help him out.
Yeah. Take an axe. Axe will work better for that.
What were the notes you had over there, Troy? I forget real quick.
Lifespans, personalities, key components.
Yeah, you've got the life path information there.
Yeah.
So when you mean key components, what exactly do you mean? Like,
Well, okay, so it's 8 major areas: culture, origin, personality, clothing style, family background, life events, motivations and goals, friends and enemies. This is one of the kind of things. Characters can have pre-established relationships, including friends, enemies, or mentors. These connections provide additional layers of narrative complexity. And the romantic life path also includes options to define the character's romantic experiences, which can range from long-term to fleeting encounters or heartbreak. And these details can influence the character's behavior and decisions in the game. Life path system offers customization, role-playing hooks, and world integration. The life path system helps tie characters into the world of Cyberpunk, making it feel like they belong to the world instead of just a character that exists there in the world. So the other thing, once you have your character, some of the things that are going to happen is you're going to have to shoot somebody.
Yeah,
It's going to happen.
about time.
So combat
Really?
is turn-based, and they use 3-second turns. So we're
Okay.
used to seeing 6 seconds as the turn for most systems to highlight the split-second nature of combat. 3-second turns is what Cyberpunk uses.
Okay, so how many actions does your character have in a single turn?
You get a move and an attack, and that's the action economy is quite a lot different.
Move and attack.
There is an initiative order at the start of combat. Each player would roll a d20 and add your d10 and add your reflex stat, and that determines your final score. Characters take their turns in descending order, so highest to lowest.
Okay.
Each turn, a character may make one primary action. That'd be an attack, using an item, or performing a skill, and one move action, so you can move up to your movement. Characters can also perform certain minor actions like drawing a weapon, things that wouldn't inhibit you from doing these others. So talking or crying is a free action.
Crying is always a free action.
Cry is a
Right,
free
it's always a
action.
free action.
Yeah, so let's see, ranged attacks involve rolling to hit based on the weapon's range and type. So you got some modifiers. Players must meet or exceed the difficulty value for the distance they're firing at, which varies depending on how far the target is. So obviously pistols don't do long range as well as rifles, and you'll have some modifiers to your roll for that based on the
Yeah.
weapon.
They're harder to throw.
Melee combat works similarly, but usually involves opposed rolls between the attacking character's melee skill and the defender's skill like evasion, or also melee.
See, and that I do like.
Yeah.
Where you have an active defense.
It's one of the things that was always kind of hard about early D&D, particularly when you had 4 hit points.
Yeah.
If you got hit and you took damage, there was nothing you could do about it. You know, maybe hopefully you had 1 hit point left and you could hit a healing potion. So here you've got a little bit of opportunity to be more active in what happens to your character in combat, both on the attack and the defense side. So damage and health. Here we go, Troy. This is the fun part.
Finally.
Characters have hit points that are reduced when they take damage, and if HP drops to 0, the character's mortally wounded
Okay.
and will die unless they receive immediate medical attention.
Okay, so do they go negative?
No, when they hit 0, that's it.
Oh, so if I hit you for 20 points damage, but you only have 5, you're not minus 15.
No, you drop to 0, and then you got critically wounded or mortally wounded. Somebody with a med pack or some other medical device could potentially stabilize you, but if you're taking damage like that, you may also suffer critical injuries. And so if you shotgun me for 20 and I have 5 hit points, I'm probably going to need some stuff replaced.
So is that like classifications of damage? Where you said mortally wounded and severely?
There's the chance for criticals. So when you make an attack roll, if you roll a 10 on the die, you'll have criticals that can have special effects. Critical injuries occur when certain thresholds are met or when a critical hit is rolled. These injuries can have severe consequences such as loss of limbs, internal damage, or instant death.
Instant death.
Yes. So, keep in mind that goes both ways. You can do that to the enemies, and the enemies can do that to you. This is where we always recommend, as a game master, using the GM screen so that you can give a little bit of leniency in certain cases if you need to, rather than just natural 20, or in this case, natural 10 your players to death.
Yeah, they don't want to do that.
Death and dying. When a character is reduced to 0, they suffer a mortal wound. They must make a death save each turn, rolling a d10 and trying to roll under their body stat. So, if you've got, kind of similar to like Constitution, but if you have a 3 and you have to roll a 3 or less, there's a good chance you're going to die. But if you have a 7, there's a good chance that you'll be able to hang on for somebody to come stabilize you.
Right.
Armor. Characters often wear armor that absorbs a certain amount of damage. However, armor degrades as it absorbs damage. This kind of sounds like some rules you put together, Troy.
Yeah. Bad.
And then using cover is crucial. Cover can reduce or nullify incoming damage, making it a strategic element in combat.
And people is cover.
People is cover. Hero shields. Let's see, if you fail, so when you're mortally wounded, if you fail your body roll, failure results in death. And so you succeed, and that leaves you there bleeding on the pavement, and as soon as you fail, you die. Combat in Cyberpunk, of course, is fast and deadly, and the system emphasizes quick thinking, tactical decisions, and the ever-present danger of injury or death. Players need to balance offense with defense using the environment and their abilities to survive encounters. Yeah, that's a good one. So combat is just like that. So again, you got 2d10s, and these are going to be your skill check dice, and then the d6s will be for your damage dice. When it comes to gameplay, we talked a little bit about the combat mechanics. Storytelling is focused on player agency, moral ambiguity, and consequences. So you might get a call from a fixer to get a job, and then you go do the job. Sometimes you have to steal from the cops. Well, if they've never been that particularly helpful in your neighborhood, then that tack vest and some of that armament might help you in your neighborhood, but that means the police, when they respond to certain situations, won't have that material. When you're stealing from mega corporations that are developing new luxury items like what is it, the mini goats. So with the lands devastated and agriculture and things like that now being major industrial enterprises and not
real meat being extraordinarily expensive and lavish,
right, and so you might get hired to go steal a case of hamburgers or steal that pig that somebody wanted to have as a pet. These sorts of things are super luxury items, and there's a lot less moral ambiguity around stealing somebody's pet or a case of hamburgers than there is stealing any number of other things, or hacking somebody's data terminals and stealing a bunch of credits from a local business,
or take a car down to a chop shop or something.
Right. You're gonna have a lot of different choices that'll range from like that's okay to I don't know about this, and
taking people down to chop shops.
Yeah, taking people down to chop shops. That's a thing. So that's gonna be some of the storytelling, and a lot of it, is gonna revolve around that. Trying to make a name for yourself, or trying to cut out a section of your territory and build a safer area. The Night City has a section of the city called the Combat Zone. Police and fire and ambulance do not respond there because it's dominated by gangs. There's nothing but people shooting each other, robbing each other, high crime, and that sort of stuff. So if your group happened to be at an apartment building there and you wanted to safeguard it, that could be something that you'd want to work on, and that means that you'll do whatever you need to make sure your area is safe within the combat zone, but it may or may not mean that you're going to improve the lot for everybody around you. So there's going to be a lot of teeter-totter and that sort of thing that you'll see in the storytelling and the different problems that come up. One of the books that they've got out here, if you get into the system, Tales of the Red. So this book here has got several one-shot style adventures, different jobs that you can take on. One of them is stealing clothes. And there's a couple of the other ones. Night at the Opera was kind of odd one, but
is it like a really cool LED glow in the dark clothes?
No, some corporate guy gets a suit made with real wool.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm gonna take that suit and make so many socks. You have no idea.
Yep, haven't got a stitch to wear. One red night, bathed in red, staying vigilant, reaping the reaper. So you get a lot of these different things. And quick thing here. Reaping the Reaper pits your crew against a deadly AI threat. It's a messy one, perfect for edgerunners looking for a good fight. Where's the closed one? I can't read. Having got a stitch to wear is a classic street level story. When the courier system that Night City businesses rely upon is disrupted, it's up to your crew to get things moving again. With shotguns. One Night Red is part 2 of the tale that began and bathed in red. After everything they've been through, your crew will get their chance to take the Red Knight off the board permanently. So revenge stories, a lot of street level crime, but this will get you started. Tales of the Red Street Stories is the one shots, and definitely the perfect place to start your time in Night City.
Sound like he had some good ideas.
Well, there's a couple other books I'll go ahead and talk about here. We've got Interface Red. They've got Volume 1 out. Volume 2 is due at some point. Gives us a lot of different things regarding... so we got NPCs. We're going to have some more lore, and we're going to end up with a couple pieces of equipment. And in this one in particular, I thought was kind of interesting. They actually talk about an MMORPG that's within the world setting. But it's a full dive environment similar to what you'd see in Sword Art Online. So people will go and log into the game, and kind of like Ready Player One, they live in the game for the most part.
Until a rogue AI comes, so that's the main boss.
Dun, 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 rogue AIs. Immersion doesn't begin to describe it. I don't dream anymore. Not in the meat world anyway, but mostly because I don't sleep all that much these days. My human life is unimportant to me, living in a broken world that I probably won't ever live to see rebuilt, earning just enough to pay for kibble and my subscription to ELO. Who wouldn't prefer it there? My elf life is awesome. I have a new girlfriend. She's a bowmaster, rank 10, and we just moved into a 2-story elven tree in the Valley of Ancients. My elf line is farming all the in-game content in the Dark Tower event raid and is currently recruiting blade dancers and druids. So if you happen to play one on the Night City air gap, send me a PM. But there's cool flavor things and different lore elements that get added in these expansion books here, and Interface Red is a good one to pick up. Here's the one I think you'll like, Troy. Black Chrome.
Black. It's really, really shiny.
Because it's what adorns all my guns.
Oh.
Yeah, if it's not black chrome, it's gold plated, baby.
100%.
New weapons, new gear, new vehicles, and more.
So it's your equipment expansion.
Oh, Bionic Commando grappling hook arm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Cue the NES music.
Well, I guess that would technically be a dystopian future. I mean, you're in the military, but
I don't even know exactly what's going on with Bionic Commando.
you have a robot arm and you're blowing stuff up.
So, okay, I didn't play the PlayStation 3 Xbox game. That looked like it was definitely dystopian. I played it on NES, and it was bright colors, and we had no idea.
Yeah.
So,
That's great.
but Bionic Commando arm. When it comes to trying to outfit your edge runners for their next mission, or outfit your NPCs so your edge runners will knock it off, new gear, new guns, new vehicles are always a bonus. The core book has quite a lot of selection and also offers a little bit of guidance and some templates that you could use and develop your own gear. But Black Chrome takes that a step further and really lets you go ham. This one was kind of interesting. Danger Gal Dossier details NPC factions that you can find around Night City. Includes a bunch of NPCs and their character stats that you can use for your game. And it will break them down by faction, so different gangs that are on the streets. One of the things I found, Tori, a lot of fun, you might appreciate this, was that a lot of the gangs in Night City are that 1960s comic book style gang.
Oh.
So when you had,
So much fun with the old Batman.
well, they would all wear the Thug One or the Warriors, yeah.
Yeah.
So they come out there and like, why are you guys all wearing, hockey equipment? And then they smack you in the face with a hockey puck. You're like, oh, because you're a street gang and your theme is hockey gear, or your theme is this, or the first Batman with Michael Keaton. Joker's cars are all painted up because that's his gang and stuff. So you'll see a lot of that sort of thing with the gangs of Night City, and
I think it's
a lot of fun.
horrible that all the crime organizations basically have uniforms.
Well, when
We're the Tiger Gang, so our uniform is lots of tattoos and no shirt.
yeah, basically, the ones that pattern themselves after the Yakuza or Triads have a different flair, and then the corporates, of course, are all in suits. So when personal style can be so varied and is so important, one of the things that they do is they lean into that a little bit more and exaggerate it with the gangs.
Mm-hmm.
And so you'll have not just colors to identify you, but you'll have a whole gimmick to identify you. Otherwise, if you walk into the wrong place, they might just shoot you.
No, we don't want that.
I mean, sometimes.
What is Star Wars?
Yeah, basically. Character advancement, when you get to it all said and done and you've shot enough people in the face and you've played through enough stories, you'll be earning experience points. They are called, in this game, however, improvement points. They're earned and spent to improve skills and stats, reflecting your character's growth and adaptation. So to that, we were talking earlier about morality and the empathy stat that's on your character sheet. You may have to spend some of your improvement points to bolster your empathy so that you can continue to add mods. You can also go through therapy, and there's a couple other things like chems that can boost your stats temporarily.
I just had the visual of you sitting in the Ripper chair watching Dr. Phil as you get your arm worked on.
Basically, or you're on Dr. Phil and you're like, sometimes Cyber Dr. Phil, I just get really angry.
Well, you need to download your emotional patch.
Yeah, because part of you is a human psyche, part of you is a computer psyche.
Yeah, and so there's different ways aside from improvement points that let your character handle some of the things that they're going to be dealing with, and you may have impacts in particularly harsh scenarios where you've got different things you'll have to sort out. And then, like we talked about, character death is a constant threat in the dangerous world of Cyberpunk. Characters can die from combat injuries, failed missions, or even the consequences of their choices.
Yeah.
The game does not shy away from the finality of death.
You hear that out there, boys and girls? Be careful.
For sure.
I mean, you're killing the bad guy. It's only fair that you can die too.
Yeah.
Well, we've seen a lot of game systems and players in certain game systems that have never lost a character and don't know what they would do if they lost a character. And I can tell you, having played characters for a long time, well, Mr. Producer and I have a pair that they should have been killed like 14 different times.
Yeah.
We somehow still managed to live. So we keep playing those characters until they die, but I've lost many, and Troy, you've got somewhere over here. Oh, here it is. There's all your dead guys.
Yep.
I think I think the funniest way that I ever died is we were in a space battle and I had that Rhodian pilot and he crashed into a planet because I got shot down.
Yeah. I mean, it happens. You fell out of space.
Yeah.
Fell,
Yeah, I got shot down in orbit, so I fell through orbit into space. Like, into the
fell
planet.
out of space.
Yep. All right. One thing I do want to add, because of its popularity, the Cyberpunk Edgerunners Mission Kit is a supplemental book for Cyberpunk RED role-playing game designed to expand the game with additional content and resources inspired by the anime series. So you get additional background and setting. You'll have additional materials that tie into the setting of Cyberpunk with a focus on elements introduced or expanded upon in the Edgerunners anime. And it aims to enrich the Cyberpunk world with new scenarios and resources. They just released plastic standees for this set too, which is kind of fun. You'll have pre-written mission scenarios and adventure hooks that game masters can use to run sessions. These missions are designed to integrate seamlessly into the existing campaign, offering fresh challenges and storylines. You'll get additional NPCs and factions, gears and equipment, character templates. They're going to feature pre-made character templates based on notable figures from the Edgerunners anime. They can be used directly by players or as a basis for creating new characters.
More stuff.
Always more stuff. Expanded lore and game master resources, which is a big one. And then this is straight from Talsorian's website here. The mission kit is everything you need to immerse yourself in the world-winning anime. You're going to get the Edgerunners handbook full of world lore curated to give you the deets you need to survive in Night City. Handpicked by the creator, Mike Pondsmith, with new biographical information on David, Lucy, and the gang by Cyberpunk Edgerunners writer Bartzos Stietbor. I'm not sure. There's too many Y's and Z's in that name. I'm sorry. But what's cool about that is you've got additional information from Mike, the creator, as well as bio information on the characters that we came to enjoy, also by the story writer. So some cool new information there on high level stuff. The rules, so everything that you need to play from Friday Night Firefights to 2070 era guns,
Like
cyberware, and quick hacks. So the jacket is the full-length mission for your crew to play, and it takes place after the anime ends. So you'll want to prime this adventure by watching the show.
Because I think the anime was like a prequel.
No, it's just a separate story on the 2077 stuff. There's so many things happening in Night City. You can have.
Well, I meant like not a prequel for the story of the video game, but
Oh.
I meant it takes place before the video game.
Yes, because with some of the updates to the video game, and then you can get the Edgerunners expansion pack. Your characters will talk about those events,
Oh, that's
which is
cool.
kind of cool. They're like, oh yeah, that one time David went and blew the shit out of everything. So I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, they've got a set of dice, and of course all the maps and tokens you need to bring it to life. So not only can you pick this up and get your game set in the 2040s, but you can take the edge runners and pick up your 2077 stuff as well.
And then plug it directly into my brain so we can play it.
Right into my brain. So we do all that. One of the things I want to talk about too is if you haven't got figured out yet, some of the differences, Troy, between Cyberpunk and some of the other role-playing games. Because it's not just a sci-fi, right? It's not Star Trek, Star Wars, Alien. We kind of understand those as a sci-fi thing. Cyberpunk has different focuses in the way that they deal with their stories and their setting.
It really is all-involved setting.
Yep. So the cyberpunk aesthetic is the first one. It's going to be the most notable. So deeply rooted in the cyberpunk genre and characterized by its high-tech, low-life, it emphasizes a dystopian future filled with advanced technology, corporate power struggles, and a gritty urban environment. A lot of the sci-fi that we might see might be a little bit more optimistic.
Yeah, it's a future. It's pretty clean.
It has sometimes. Cyberpunk tends to be very pessimistic. You got to focus on technology and cyberware with a strong emphasis on cybernetic enhancements, hacking, and technological advancement. Characters frequently interact with and augment their bodies with cyberware, and that's central to gameplay and the narrative.
Mm.
You got corporate intrigue and street-level conflict. A lot of the times the heroes are out saving the world. Sometimes we're just trying to save ourselves.
True.
So you'll have a different scale to the stories that you run across in Cyberpunk. And ultimately, what you do from game to game may not make a big difference in the world setting. You know, when we fight the Lich and save the city, or, you know, kill the dragon, you know, those are world impactful events in Dungeons and Dragons and things. You okay there, Troy?
No.
No. Sorry, I'm boring him. You won't find that in Cyberpunk.
No, it's medication's kicking up with me.
I gotcha. The other thing is the high stakes combat. Right?
Yeah.
Combat will always be deadly and be less of a first act and more of a last resort.
Ooh.
You
Nice little tagline.
I just did that. You know, when the orcs show up or the goblins show up in Dungeons and Dragons, you fight the orcs.
Oh yeah.
When the stormtroopers show up, you laugh and then you blast them.
Yeah.
Not so much here. You got to be careful because you can end up as dead as quickly as they can.
Yep.
And then immersive world building. So the detailed setting of Night City with its various districts, factions, and characters provides a highly immersive experience. The game's world building is intricate and supports a wide range of stories and adventures. They've been working on Night City and the world of Cyberpunk since '85. So there's a lot to pull from, a lot of stories that you could reach back into and bring forward. There's a lot of different elements within media that you could take inspiration from. There's just a lot going on, from a cool game system to a lot within the cyberpunk genre.
It is a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing just how much a lot it is.
So a lot of this, you were saying the modifications are like essential to the story and like very driven through it. All of that just reminded me of the one detective from Ghost in the Shell who had no modifications. And
he actually was able to overcome certain things the rest of the group couldn't.
Yeah, because like they would get hacked and he didn't have anything to get hacked, so he would see the bad guy and nobody else did.
Yeah, so certain high level military grade, I could have a wireless field in operation that would go and scramble your optic implants,
okay,
and erase me from your field of view. That guy has regular eyeballs and he can see me. So that was interesting from that character in particular, when they played with the hyper technology. I mean, Major Kusanagi is a full body replacement cyborg. The other guys had various levels of enhancement to do their jobs and stuff. All he had was a couple organs that had been replaced from serious damage he received in the line of duty.
I think after one of the sequels, he finally got the telecom implant.
Yeah, because he was tired of being left out.
Yeah. He's like, you mean I have to use a phone to call you?
Yeah, because they were all used to having secure military communications in their brain. But
that could be handy.
it could be handy. You got some final words on Cyberpunk, Troy?
It's a very cool setting. It's been out long enough that it's very settled. Everything in it is, I don't want to say new. It's very settled. It's not like you have to worry about things getting changed on you. You have to get another book. They're still in the process of adding things to it. Give it a try. If you like sci-fi, you like Blade Runner, the movie, give this a try.
Yeah, it definitely feels like they hit on what they want to do, and they're just kind of going to expand on what's out right now. So
It's very, very true. So Talsorian is still actively supporting this with new material being released. I've got the scheduled, so check out their website. You can also go to cyberpunk.com. But that is our overview for Cyberpunk. We hope you check it out. At least pick up, I'll break it out up here. Oh, bam. The Jumpstart Kit. It's got everything you need to play. So it's got the right price. All the materials are fantastically done. It's full color.
So, well, you said earlier that all you really need is the core book. So does the Jumpstart Kit have like the character sheets and dice and such?
This will also include a rules primer. So just like all the other quick start play kits that you'd be familiar with and other RPGs, the Jumpstart Kit's all you're going to need to get started at the table and experience the world of Cyberpunk.
Sweet. And also remember your local game stores. They may have some of this material that you can borrow and check it out, read it, see if you want to get into it, and also ask them if they have any games in store that you could join and learn more about it.
Yeah, I know Nowheres and Haven both do Cyberpunk occasionally.
Yep, and we donated a Jumpstart Kit to Haven. And if they don't have it, they can probably order it for you. So give them the opportunity to earn your business.
Definitely support the local game stores.
Yeah. So thank you for watching us today. If you found this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Tell us about some of your favorite moments from the Cyberpunk anime. Go take a watch if you haven't already. And while you're looking over our library, take a moment to check out some of our other videos as well. Troy, tell them where they can find us.
Hey, it's Troy Planescape Guy. You can find us at iwanttobeagm.com, Facebook, Discord, and right here on YouTube.
Yep. So we've got digital Mr. Producer over there. And I'm Jester Borris for I Want to Be a GM. We'll see you next time.